All right, guys, we're gonna have some more questions today. So if you guys want questions answered, feel free to text, message. You can message on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere. And we're answering questions from customers every day. So we get them all the time, whether it be through email, text, Instagram, or our giveaways. And so let's go through some questions from customers from today. So the first one we have is from Crosby Therapy. Doesn't have a first name. So it is, will they get sick, like salmonella and other things like humans? So the dog's digestive system is different than a human's digestive system as far as its ability to withstand some of those things, but it is important that you're sourcing your food from a good facility that has good food handling processes. So it is always possible, and it does happen. But it happened at the same time when you feed kibble too, because I mean, look at all the recalls in kibble over the last couple of years. I mean, there's more pounds recalled in kibble than raw by a landslide. So you have the same issues regardless of what you're feeding, but the recall level in kibble, especially the last couple of years, has just been incredible. So you run the risk either way. There are other ways that dogs and pets get other pathogens, but yeah, you have to make sure you're sourcing from a good source, that it's food safe as far as like what they've done with it. Always human grade ingredients is a great way to go to ensure that the inputs are quality. But yeah, they can get sick. Like any animal can get sick from anything that they get in contact with, and food is a way they can get sick. But look at the last couple of years, you're as likely to get sick from kibble as you were from anything else. It's quite amazing, actually. All right, so the next question is from Jeff from Seashell, BC. Jeff asks, is it good for senior dogs? Is it good for senior dogs? So I would say it's good for any dog, any age. We literally feed our puppies raw all the way up to the day that they have their last breath. They all get raw from day one and on. So I would say across the board, it's definitely a good idea. We had a discussion with a different customer today about just the amount of inflammation that happens out of kibble versus say raw. And your senior dogs, they're dealing with a lot of those kind of ailments. So I would say yes, it's very good. Another thing to consider too is if you have a senior dog, like our Wild Instincts brand that we carry actually has in the formula itself stuff for joints to make sure that there's a little extra there for animals' joints. And senior dogs are more likely to have joint issues as they get older. I encourage it for like their entire lifespan, just to make sure they have all the things they need for their joints to stay healthy, especially your very active dogs. It's really smart. But yeah, senior dogs for sure, you can totally feed them raw. Transition process is pretty much the same. If you feel them a bit more sensitive, you can be a bit slower in the transition. Maybe introduce it as a snack the first couple of days versus being a complete meal. Again, space it away from when you're feeding kibble, and then slowly transition them over. That'd be totally fine, just to make it a little easier on them depending how old they are, but definitely a good idea. We have Deanna from Maple Ridge asking about costs. It just literally says costs. It's huge range. Just like kibble, there's a big range as far as how much it costs in raw it is as well. If you're feeding things like chicken, it is not that expensive. If you have a smaller dog, it's really not a big deal at all. If you have a very large dog, that's when it becomes a much bigger difference. But what a lot of customers talk about, and again, different customer I called today about vet bills and stuff like that, is they look at the savings from vet bills with not having the health issues they've had with other, feeding kibble and feeding other stuff. So by feeding raw, their vet bills were significantly less. And so for them, they have quite a few, they have I think 3 big dogs. So for them, the vet bill made up for the fact that the way they were feeding it cost more, and they were feeding things like they weren't actually feeding chicken, they're feeding like beef and pork and other things. So the cost is relative. I mean, chicken, we have one chicken here that's say $70 for like 25 pounds, and then beef as an example is $200 for 25 pounds. So there's all sorts of stuff in between there. I mean, venison's really expensive, especially right now. And so there's a huge range when you ask about costs. You're feeding the same number of pounds regardless of what you're feeding as far as chicken or venison or beef, but that's a big difference. It's a 300-400% difference between what protein you're feeding. So definitely changes quite a bit. But for a lot of dogs, especially small dogs, it's not no difference at all. And as far as like total cost, when you total vet bills, health, all the kind of jazz, it's less expensive for the vast majority of animals. Elisa from Calgary asks about allergies. So we get this all the time about allergies. Allergies is a great question. Raw is a great way to go. There's a few things here. One, when you're feeding, say, kibble, if you look at the package of kibble, there's anywhere from like 40 ingredients to some have up to 90 ingredients. And so when it comes to allergies, like which one is your allergen, right? People often look at the label says chicken, the label says beef, as far as like, this is chicken kibble or whatever. But there are a lot of other stuff in there that's not chicken. I mean, there's probably in half those things more corn or wheat or other filler or other carbs before it even gets to chicken. So, or whatever the other items are that are in there, like beef or whatever. So when you start going to a raw diet, what we tend to do is go to get somebody on a single protein. One of the most popular ones, because it's not that expensive, it's unlikely to be a source of allergies, is pork. Pork is not that expensive, so it's a great place to start. And we'll start with a pork diet. So all that's in there is going to be pork bone, pork meat, and pork organ. That's it. And so you can't feed them just that forever, but as a starting place to get rid of allergens that are in the system and kind of purge them of those allergens, it's a great place to start. So a lot of people start there. If you can also try kangaroo, it's a good one to go to because nothing's allergic to kangaroo pretty much. So that's a great one as well. If you have a specific case, feel free to reach out and we can talk about your case as to what might be the best plan forward. But it's raw is a great place to start when you have allergen problems for sure. All right, we have Anne from Maple Ridge. Her dog's a very fussy eater, wanting only people food. What do I do? So I have two ways to look at this. I think if your dog is wanting people food, I would say it's a pretty indication that they don't want kibble. So I would definitely introduce them to raw. People have different perspective as to what they feel a dog is rejecting. Like my dogs, to be honest, they have no choice as to what they're eating. And so do I think they prefer certain things? For sure. Each dog has their preferences. Like it is very clear. Like when we feed certain dogs beef, they love it way more than we feed them chicken. But we rotate proteins all the time. And they definitely have preferences, but it's like kids. Eat your food, man. And because we don't mess and bother with it, do they eat slower sometimes? For sure. Like the odd certain dogs, certain days when it's not their favorite, eat slower, for sure. But we honestly don't give them a choice. That's dinner and they eat it. So if your dog is already eating people food, introducing raw maybe as a snack to start with would be a great place to start. There's a very good chance they're gonna find certain raws that they really like, generally certain proteins they're gonna really like. And I think it'd be a great way to go. So if you want more help with that, let me know and I can definitely help you out, but for sure. Okay, Shelly from DeRoche asked about how expensive is it? We kind of went this above with Deanna. It depends what you're feeding. So when you're feeding chicken, not that bad at all. If you're feeding beef, it's a lot more. Venison, a lot more. Kangaroo's kind of upper of expensive, but not crazy. There's a lot of options even in there. We carry about 200 raw items. So there's a lot of options out there. And there's a pretty big range from the least expensive to the most expensive. There's about a 400% difference depending on what you're feeding. So it's a very broad answer. But compared to a good kibble, for most dogs, you're not going to notice the difference. It really only matters if you have a very, very large dog, and then you will notice a pretty material difference. A very large dog, or you're feeding expensive proteins, then you'll find a very big difference. But if you want to keep it an economical, like a budget-friendly raw feeding regimen, primarily chicken. I really don't think most dogs are allergic to chicken. There are dogs allergic to chicken, it's totally true, but the vast majority aren't. And so if your dog, chances aren't allergic to chicken. And if chicken doesn't work, try pork. It's not that much more, and it's pretty easy. We carry both pork and boar, super popular. Pork is actually one of the most popular things we sell. So great option. All right, we have Karen from Agassiz, BC. She asks, is it better for him or just as a snack? So I would encourage feeding it as a meal. I also encourage long-term feeding complete meals versus just, say, a diet. We can go, so I'll clarify that. So there are, as a general rule, there's diets, which tend to be just the meat, bone, and organ. And then there are dinners, which tend to be close to complete, which are meat, bone, organ, and fruits and veggies at small amounts, depending on the brand, anywhere from 5% to 20%, depending on who's making it. And then there are completes, which, depending on how they do it, will have the meat, bone, organ, and veggies. And some will add in a few other things to make sure it's as balanced as possible, depending on the fruit and veggie mix they're adding into there. And the veggie part, I guess, like I said, anywhere from 5% to 20%, depending on the brand. And I would suggest, yeah, you can give them as snacks. But if you want snacks, like, there's easier things than just raw. Because raw, I mean, you have to wash your hands, and like we wash our dishes every feeding. It's not that big of a deal. We have a bit of a system here. But if you're gonna feed raw as a snack, for me, I would do the freeze-dried raw. It's just an easier thing to carry. You can keep it on your counter. It's stable. It's a great snack, great training tool. So I would definitely encourage that. If you're gonna do that, just make sure there's lots of water around, because it's freeze-dried, so they'll be thirsty. You can pre-soak it too if you want, but as a little snack or a treat, it's a great way to go. Or we have lots of dried snacks too that are raw but dried. So, what's next here? Jennifer from Coquitlam asks, can you do this with a small breed of dog as well? Can you feed raw to a small breed dog as well? Jennifer, you absolutely can. For me, if you have a small dog, there's really no reason not to feed raw, because they eat so little that the cost of kibble and cost of raw are identical. I mean, for most dogs, we're talking about less than the cost of coffee, and we have coffee every day. And so you can feed your dog a fantastic raw meal for what you feed yourself as coffee on the way to work or at home, depending where you have it. So, and for a small dog, it's super economical. And the cool thing with small dogs, we have so many options that are super small dog friendly. We have some 3-pound bags that are like complete meals in small cubes, very super easy to feed. If you want to be economical but want to have proteins, a variety of proteins, like Wild Instincts has a variety box that has multiple proteins inside a small box. They're 1/4 pound patties, so they're easy to feed. There's other brands we carry that have complete in small cubes. And so it's really easy to do. There's no cost consequence relative to feeding kibble. The only cost consequence is your vet bills will probably be way less than feeding kibble. And so that's the one big benefit. So if you have a small dog, honestly, feed raw. It's definitely worth it for sure. All right, guys, those are the questions for today. So tomorrow I'll come back with some more. I hope you're having a great time. And if you have questions, please email me at info@wildatheartpets.com, and I'll be happy to answer your questions for you as well. Or you can message on Facebook, Instagram, or any of the social media. That'd be great. Have a great night.